The readings today are really about focus, focusing on what's important. And I was thinking as I was coming to church that I'm probably the worst person to give a homily on focus, because I'm pretty sure if you Googled attention deficit disorder in priest, my picture would come up. I remember one time doing a homily and a little baby went, and I said, sure, that's easy for you to say. And I completely forgot what my homily was about, what the readings were, or anyone. And I looked at this old lady and I said, what was I preaching about? She said, the loaves and the fishes. Oh, okay. And I came back. After a while, they just got used to me. Meanwhile, back at the homily, it's about focus. Peter and the other disciples were in the boat fishing, or fishermen. They were out a couple of miles in the middle of the sea, and the wind started tossing the waves, and the boat was going back and forth. They started to get scared. And you have to put this in perspective. These weren't like weekend sailors. These were men that lived on the sea. So for them to be scared, it was something else. And in the midst of all this, and the wind and all of the water and the mist, they saw this figure walking towards them. And they were terrified. They thought it was a ghost. And Jesus said, do not be afraid. It is I. Peter said, if it's really you, let me come out and walk to you. And he said, come. Peter gets out of the boat and he starts walking, and he says, this is pretty cool. Walking in the water. How many other people can say they did that? And then all of a sudden, he starts looking at the waves and seeing how big they are and breaking all around him and the wind whooshing. And he starts to sink. And he cries out to Jesus, Lord, save me. And Jesus reaches out his hand and grabs him and pulls him in. He said, oh, you of little faith, why did you doubt? Did you think I was going to let you drown? If I have the power to make you walk on the water, don't you think I have the power to save you? But what happened was Peter lost focus. When he quit focusing on Jesus and started focusing on the waves, that's when he got into trouble. I don't know how many people tell me, especially during this coronavirus period, how many people have told me, Father, I can't focus on my prayers. I can't focus at Mass, and I'm just distracted very easily, and my life is falling apart. I'm arguing with people at work. I'm yelling at the kids. I'm arguing with my wife, and my prayer life is awful. And I want to say, don't you see the connection? Focusing on the prayer life is where it all starts. And everything else flows from there, because if your focus is on God, it changes everything. And he tells you what else to focus on. If we're focusing on what other people have, whether it's their personal gifts, like somebody's a really great singer, or somebody's a great musician, like Adele, or somebody is a great preacher, and we focus on that, we get jealous. But if we focus on being thankful for the gifts that we have, we start to realize, wow, I never thought about it, but I'm pretty good at this and I'm pretty good at that. And God has blessed me with this and God has blessed me with that. And it changes your whole perspective. It can take you from your focus can take you from being an optimist to being a pessimist, or a pessimist to being an optimist. It's all about what we focus on. If we focus on your husband coming home from work and saying something snippy to you, we focus on ourselves and think, wow, I can't believe he said that to me. Then we're going to get angry and it's going to get ugly, isn't it? But if you stop and think, he doesn't usually talk to me that way. I wonder what happened in his day. And I say, are you okay? Did something go wrong today? And it completely changes the complexion of the conversation, doesn't it? Because we're not focused on ourselves. You think about it when you're in high school. How many of you played baseball? Oh, come on, there has to be somebody. If you were in Little League and you got a trophy, you were really excited, right? Well, if somebody else got the trophy and you came in third place, you're upset. But if it was your little brother that got the trophy and he never got a trophy in his life before, then you're not upset because you're excited for him, because you're focusing on his joy, not focusing on your sorrow. When I was in seminary, my second year, my mom came up to visit us at St. Vincent's, and she didn't feel well. And she went home that night, and I called and said to ask if she was okay. Her stomach was bothering her, and there was no answer. So I called again at like 10 o'clock, no answer. 11 o'clock, no answer. Finally, I got a phone call that she was in the hospital. They thought she might have an ulcer. Long story short, they realized it wasn't an ulcer, it was leukemia. And a month later, we buried her. And I remember being at seminary, and at first everybody's focus was on, oh, we're so sorry about your mom. We'll pray for you. You know, you need help with anything. And everybody was wonderful. But after a couple of weeks, the dust settled, and it was like everyone forgot about it except me. And I remember being really depressed and sitting in the chapel and actually crying. And this little voice started speaking to me, thinking about stories about my mother telling me when she was younger. And I remember at Christmas time, like right after Christmas, she used to get kind of blue, depressed. And one day I said, Mom, what's wrong? And she said, nothing. And I said, no, you're not yourself. And she said, well, I just miss my family. And I didn't realize till later, I was online one day and Googled my grandparents and realized my grandma died when I was about 6 months old, and it was right around Christmas time. And I started thinking about the stories she told me about her brothers when she was little. She was the youngest, and her older brothers used to pick on her all the time. And one brother was named Joseph, and he was going to be a drummer. But he developed appendicitis, and before they got to the hospital, it burst, and he died. And then her other brother, Stephen, was going to be a doctor, and he was working really hard to save up money to go to school, and he was working during the day and going to night school, and he was running to catch a streetcar and got hit by a truck and died. And I realized my mom and dad had been married for 51 years. My dad never met either of them, Joseph or Stephen. They had been gone for at least 60 or 70 years. And I thought, wow, what would it be like for my mom to see her older brothers for the first time in 70 years? To see her mom and dad for the first time in 40 years. And her grandparents that I've never even met. Wouldn't that be incredible? And all of a sudden I didn't feel so sad anymore because I was happy for her. It's all about focusing on what's important, and God helps us do that. He helps us focus oftentimes on Him by focusing on others, because when we start to talk to people and listen to them, and especially if we're listening between the lines to see what's bothering them, we start to look to see Christ in them, even when it's really hard. It's amazing how when we start to look to see Christ in other people, and that's our focus, that they start to see Christ in us. Wouldn't it be a better world if everyone saw Christ in each other?